mountain town, or the one after that would be Puente del Norte. And there she'd find her father. And there she'd find John Thomas Murphy. She ran a slender, long-fingered hand through her cropped brown hair, lifting it off her narrow neck. 14 years, she thought. 14 years since her father had taken off with all his high ideals intact, leaving his family behind as he sought his destiny as a saint. And Jake Murphy had gone as his willing disciple. 14 years without a word, only the news reports filtering back. She'd seen her father on television occasionally in the years since. For the first few years, she'd turned him off, unable to look at that lean, ascetic face, that holy gleam in the pale blue eyes so unlike her own, that devotion to causes and humanity that hadn't filtered down to devotion to his own daughter. But eventually the anger and the pain had lessened, faded into a vaguely curious apathy, so that she had taken to watching her father age before her eyes and the television cameras. El Patron, the Saint of San Pablo, he was called by the media, dispensing medical aid and education and food and his holier-than-thou support to the starving people of that oppressed country. Tolerated by the rigidly right-wing government as a harmless eccentric, worshipped by the Patronistas, the ragtag rebel army who'd claimed him as their own, Samuel Edison Lambert was in his element. And Maddy had watched him with mingled longing and wry acceptance. Until last week. "He's dying, you know," her mother had said abruptly. Maddy had finally returned her mother's constant phone calls, mentally thanking God again that she lived in Southern California and her overwhelming mother was 3,000 miles to the east, in the heart of upper-class Virginia. "Who?" Maddy replied, ignoring the sudden clutching that told her she knew perfectly well who. "Your father, of course," Helen Courier Lambert Henderson snapped back in her brittle, perfectly modulated voice. And Maddy could see her as clearly as if those miles didn't separate them. The narrow, delicately painted lips, the brown eyes that somehow managed to look ice cold, the perfect white skin, magnificent cheekbones, and sweep of excellently tinted dark brown hair. Her long nails would be tapping the base of the telephone as she talked to her unsatisfactory daughter, and her calm, cool face would have an expression of fastidious irritation. "Who else would I be talking about?" she continued after she had waited long enough to have her displeasure known. Maddy shrugged on the other end, a useless, unseen gesture, trying to give herself time to answer. "I don't know. Maybe Uncle Max?" "Your stepfather is in the best of health, thank you," Helen snapped. "He takes care of himself." "I know he does," Maddy said with just a tiny trace of malice. Maxfield Henderson's devotion to his 57-year-old body was just short of obsession, an obsession Helen shared. "What do you mean, my father's dying?" She hurried on before Helen could respond. "I saw him on Dan Rather just last week, and he looked fine." "Don't be naive, Maddy. That was file footage. Any fool could tell that was filmed during the summer months. Everything was all dried out. San Pablo is just coming out of the rainy season. You won't find a patch of brown anywhere right now." "How did you become such an expert on Central America, Mother? I thought you hated it down there." "Of course I hate it. There was no way I was going to follow your father into his self-imposed exile, even though you deserved it more than he did," Maddy interrupted. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, with only the long-distance crackle between them. And for a moment, Maddy wondered if she'd gone too far. If her father really was ill, her mother wouldn't be beyond using it to make her recalcitrant daughter obedient. She could hang up and refuse to tell her any more until Maddy groveled. And in this case, she might have no choice. "Mother," she said. The silence continued. "I should hang up on you," her mother's voice came back finally. Maddy tapped her own pale, unpainted fingernails against the scarred oak desk that was littered with papers, swallowing her own anger and irritation. "What's wrong with my father?" "Cancer, and don't ask me how I found out what Dan Rather doesn't even know. Max has impeccable sources. Your father's been sick for quite some time now, and of course he's refused to leave San Pablo." "Why are you telling me all this?" "Do you want me to send him a get-well card?" Maddy drawled. "I don't think he'd answer it."